All right, everyone. First of all, welcome. My name is Arthur McKay, and I work on the marketing team here at CreatorIQ. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, CreatorIQ is an end-to-end influence marketing software solution that helps you grow, manage, measure, and scale your influence marketing programs. During today's webinar, we're going to focus on a pretty important subject. And those are the biggest trends impacting influencer marketing in 2023. CreatorIQ recently published our Influencer Marketing Trends Report, which was featured by Forbes, and you'll be receiving that report after the webinar so that you can understand some of the key learnings that we are using from the report to guide the discussion today. Okay, so today I am joined by influencer marketing experts from Pizza Hut, from RQ, also from Foodie Tribe. I'll let them introduce themselves, but these folks have some pretty good brands under their respective umbrellas, running campaigns for major brands like HBO, Hulu, Caviar, Goya, Best Buy, and of course Pizza Hut. So we're looking forward to a very lively discussion. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind our listeners of the chat function. Please feel free to say hello, interact in the chat, and then you can also submit questions throughout the discussion, and we'll spend some time at the end addressing some of those with our panelists. So let's kick things off with some introductions. Panelists, if you wouldn't mind, please tell us your name, which city you're joining us from today, your company, and a little bit about your experience with influence marketing. We'll begin with Katy, then we'll go to Brian, and then over to Elyse. So Katy, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Arthur, thanks for having me here on this panel. I'm very excited to chat amongst these awesome colleagues here. So I'm Katy Coffield. I am the CEO and one of the co-founders of Foodie Tribe. We are an influencer marketing agency. I am based in South Florida. And my experience with influencer marketing, I've had this agency for 7 years. And before that, I was a blogger in Miami. So been doing the influencing thing without really knowing it for, I guess, 15 plus years and just having a great time. I'm excited to chat with you all today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katy. Brian?
Hi, I'm Brian Salzman, coming to you from New York City, but I'm based in Los Angeles usually. Have a great team of people, work there, a company called RQ, which I started a little over 7 years ago. RQ, which stands for Relationship Quotient. And the reason I started RQ was really about how the value of relationships with people who have influence, both online and off, can really affect and impact brand marketing. So we have an incredible, innovative team that is always thinking outside the box, but really looking at the power of creativity and really leveraging relationships and putting them more in the center of the marketing mix rather than just social media and leveraging that impact. So I'm excited to be here too.
Excellent. We're very excited to have you. Thank you, Brian. Elyse, a little about yourself, if you would.
Hey, everyone. Elyse Slayton. I am Director of Advertising for Pizza Hut. Prior to being in the pizza space, I spent a bunch of years with TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Home Goods. And I am a degenerate shopper and foodie, so both jobs have been really perfect for me. Brian Salzman here is one of the reasons why I've loved influencer marketing for years, but it has been a huge piece of what we do in terms of all of our paid advertising. RQ is our agency, and they help us create really, really impactful influencer marketing programs. But yeah, I think I'm really excited to be here today because I always talk about time and calories and what I do in terms of like paid marketing with TV and paid social and OLA and everything we do with retail. But the time and calories I spend on authentic content and influencer marketing has grown each year because it's become such an important part of how we communicate, particularly with Gen Z.
Fantastic. Thank you all. And Sabrina, I must say that you and your team have excellent taste because I think Pizza Hut for lunch sounds delightful.
It's my team, Arthur. It's my team.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Listen.
I told you we were Pizza Hut fans. I wasn't lying.
There you go. All about the cheesy crust.
That makes me so happy.
Great. Okay, so I'd love to kick off today's discussion by touching on a topic that I know is on everyone's radar, and that's budgeting. According to the data within the Influencer Marketing Trends report, about 67% of brands increased influencer marketing spending in 2022, while 83% of agencies increased theirs. I'm curious, I have a couple of questions on this topic, but I'd like to start with, I'd sort of like to understand, how have you seen investment in creator marketing evolve within your own business over, let's say, the last 12 to 18 months? Katie, let's begin with yourself, if you would.
So I actually have an anecdote that just happened right before this conversation. I was really happy they gave me this information, which is very interesting. We collaborate with a lot of dairy councils. So one of our clients is Florida Milk. But I spoke to the council out in Oregon, and they were explaining to me how their marketing budget increased from last year 200%, and that 200% is being completely pushed into the influencer marketing field. Hence why they reached out to Foodie Tribe to like really doing like small activations on their own and seeing how it goes, and hoping for the best versus like working with somebody that really like understands like the business of dairy in general, but like just the influencer process. So I thought it was very interesting because a council like that, they're considered a nonprofit organization. I think a lot of us don't think that there are nonprofits out there that are seeing that influencer marketing is working for like more awareness-based campaigns. And I thought that was a very interesting point to share today, because 200, I think she said 210% more than what they spent last year.
Interesting. Brian, what about yourself?
I think I don't set the budgets from our brands, but hopefully they'll go up and up and up. But I think what we're finding really unique in terms of budgeting is where the budgets are coming from. One thing at RQ that we really kind of focus on is the value of influence across the marketing mix, not just social media, as I mentioned before, because truly influence has an impact on earned media and PR. From events, we talk about figuring out where to show up and how to show up, whether you're going into cohorts or different markets. Also in creative, I mean, the insights that we get on real time from influencers really kind of take the speed of getting information so much faster than it ever has before. So we're finding that influencer budgets are coming from all across brand marketing and not just social, which is really exciting. I think it shows the value of those innovative enough to think about influence beyond just social media.
Yeah, we've noticed similar trends in our business, seeing PR teams using this side of the software of the platform, and then the social teams using others to run their actual campaigns. It's that's definitely I suppose a trend that I think we'll see further growth in 2023. Elyse, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. We have, and when I look at the Pizza Hut marketing budget, we've just increased the places and the verticals. If you looked at 3 years ago, influencer was a tactic and a channel, and we just allocated a certain amount to it. Now, influencer is a piece of PR. It's a piece of our paid content. It is a piece of like how we, engage on our channels and how. So I think it's just grown in terms of, I almost tackled that in my intro, like the time and calories my team spends on influencer marketing has increased probably 3x over the past 2 years.
Wow, excellent. And so let me ask you this, at a more, I suppose, micro level, and audience, this is when you're going to want to have your pens taking your notes. I'm curious, what are some of the key factors that are determining your budget, and how do you approach, I suppose, making the most, optimizing your influence marketing budget across your respective programs?
Can I start with that one?
Sure.
I think like the most interesting piece about how we've been determining our budget, we set like a nice thick base layer of, this is just how we keep the lights on, engaging with influencers. And that's like our basic block and tackle, like working with them on different product releases. The other thing that we've set a good amount of budget towards is creating we call them our Hut crew. And this is all the brainchild of RQ, but a tribe of influencers that we've built deep relationships with. So they're part of our always on layer. So beyond those two things, so like just influencers for product launches and our always on layer. So we're tapping into those guys all the time to be talking about Pizza Hut during certain events, and they're like aligning their content with, more cultural tentpoles. the big piece that we have a good open to spend budget pool for is idea led. So if the team or a creator is coming to us with a great idea, we make sure to reserve a certain amount of money for that. And open to spend, sometimes it's going to be against a media activation that has nothing to do with influencers. But I think what I've seen over the past 2 years is that a lot of the time that open to spend and those great ideas are either creator centric, or there is a huge creator component to make that idea more special and like feel like it's actually connected with the consumers we want to reach, which is of course Gen Z. I'm sure everyone is in the same place there. So I would say base layer plus idea generation.
Fantastic.
Elyse,
Katie.
Well, I was saying, at least one of the great things, I mean, a great example is what your team just did, is the world's largest that literally came from a creator who reached out. I think you could tell the story, but it's a perfect example of how it came to fruition. How it was so powerful and so successful. Yeah,
I was planning on telling it later on, but yeah, I'll give you guys a like how, an open to spend idea, which went from like nothing to a multi-million-dollar spend against channels, TV, everything that we have across our paid content universe. So, but I think that leaving that open to spend for great ideas and then managing it at a good point in the year where you're not going to like obviously leave money on the table, but it's been very important for us.
Elyse, I must quickly ask, how big was that pizza? Do we know?
Oh, yes. I'll tell you guys all about it. It was 133.5 feet across. And I would be curious to know if anyone in the chat saw anything about the world's largest pizza with air rack, or just saw it on any of their social or in any of their channels over the course of the past week. Oh, wow. Amazing.
Wow.
See? I always say that, like, I know we've done really well when I get texts from random friends about something that I did. And a lot of it was around, oh my God, did you do that with Eric? And so it was really about the influencer piece of it versus the block and tackle PR coverage we got of it too.
Wow. And I can tell you from experience, as a big fan of Pizza Hut, 135 feet is still not enough. So we'll have to work an even larger one next time. Katie, I'd love to get your thoughts on determining budget.
Yeah, so I would say that there's probably a good chunk of our clients that come to us and have no idea what to spend still on influencer. And this can be anywhere from like a major corporation to like a Del Monte fresh produce to like a Florida milk. So what I always do with my team is I always ask, well, what are we looking to accomplish, right? So like Elyse and Brian, they always have like something that they want to do, a goal that they have in mind, a target, right? So they're really pushing Gen Z. A lot of the brands that I'm working with are still actually really pushing to millennials who have more disposable income. A lot of the brands that we work with cost a little bit more money. So they come to us and they're like, well, this is what I'm looking to accomplish. And then we put together like a content strategy or like a piece of like how they could best like get the most bang for their buck. And a lot of the things that we're doing, we're using CreatorIQ for is whitelisting. So a lot of our campaigns include whitelisting privileges from the influencers, and CreatorIQ allows us to essentially give that little handshake between the influencers content and the brand. And then the brand can take that offline and go ahead and create their paid, but they're getting a lot more reach, impressions, and engagements off of this user generated content that they before, content creation methods and stuff they wouldn't have normally had access to. So that's a big, like, for example, that's a huge part of our strategy with Caviar, the DoorDash company. And then now we're trying it out with some smaller brands now that we have some case studies to show them that it works.
Fantastic. Brian, did you have any final thoughts on that question? All good. Cool. Okay, so before we move on to the next section, I would like to touch on another pretty important area within influence marketing, that is tracking ROI of our respective programs. So let me ask you, I'll just ask this to the group. I'm curious, which success metrics do you find most important in tracking and communicating your ROI? And how does influencer marketing compare or perform compared with other respective channels?
I can start. You want?
I see you get.
Not everybody get crazy. No. So I we spoke about this like together in our prep yesterday. I think Brian mentioned it. People are always like, okay, well, what's the ROI? Like, what am I gonna get from this? If I give you $50,000, like, am I gonna make that 50K plus back? How much? And things are moving towards like a space where you can be a little bit more, like, you can fine tune things, so you can maybe give a little bit more of concrete numbers and stuff to the clients. But I think what we do on our side specifically is we assign a cost per engagement and a cost per impression on the overall campaign budget. And that helps the brand understand if they're doing other digital pushes. So if like they're doing digital ads or digital banners or paid advertising, then we can kind of compare and contrast those metrics and those KPIs against those. I think the whitelisting also helps us a lot, like push our our message, because we're able to get like click-through rates and frequency and all that good stuff that you would get from like a historic paid media campaign, so that they can essentially try to compare apples to apples. And that's just like been like an education factor that we've been having to do since we started the agency, which I'm sure Brian, sometimes has, similar challenges as me.
Yeah,
Brian, what do you think?
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think one of the unique things about influencer is that it's evolved. Like influencer, and when you talk about metrics, it's a lot of influencers define like a media tool. Like I have a certain budget, I go to a platform, they find me 10 influencers, I need to guarantee these many metrics, and it's engagements and all that stuff. And listen, I'm all about vanity metrics in general. Some of them are more vanity than ever, but like, if you really think about the impact that influence makes, I mean, both online and off, if you think about like where you are on the funnel, whether it's big awareness, where those big influencers matter, whether it be really driving. One thing we were just talking about with some of our clients was, how do we like get people to go into the store and buy it? How do we close down the store because we ran out of product? And there are certain people that you can't really measure that online. You have to know, you have to have a gut instinct, you have to know their influence within the ecosystem you're trying to infiltrate. And I think as we move influence from just a social media kind of tool to a more of a brand tool, a lot of times they're immeasurable, and it's about the marketer. Like, we have incredible clients who we work with who they have this instinct. They trust that influence is going to help their business. And we do have the vanity metrics like engagement, and we have an incredible team member at RQ who is all about storytelling with data. How do we really show that data is driving sentiment, that's driving, yes, business and product and relevancy within a new group, a new consumer? A lot of times I think what influence can do. I'm sorry, I might be going off on a tangent here, but influence sometimes is about infiltrating different ecosystems, like I mentioned before, cohort marketing, and looking at you really can't buy your way in. But if you're trying to reach Gen Z, the LGBTQ audience, you have to figure out how we're going to infiltrate that in a way that is authentic and meaningful, and influence can do that. So how do you measure that from literally a metrics? It's difficult sometimes. So it's difficult for us to always just like metrics. We get it. We know it's important. We're spending money, but you have to have a little faith that this tool works also.
Absolutely. Elyse, what are your thoughts on tracking ROI success metrics, and also how is influence marketing performing for Pizza Hut against other channels?
Yeah, it's really hard. I'm actually going to answer with a little bit of a backstep in my career. Before I was at Pizza Hut, I worked for a small menswear DTC brand called Ms. and Maine, and we used influencer marketing in a completely different way. And it was very easy to track the ROI, because you could see that, like, okay, influencers who were talking about this specific product helped sell X amount of shirts. So it was, I think that like the way that influencer marketing works for different is so dependent, and the ROI is dependent on the type of brand proposition you have, because it was so much easier for me to tie ROI to my campaigns. But with everyone, whether you have a small brand like Ms. and Maine or a huge brand like Pizza Hut, when you're making the bold choice to have influencer marketing to drive awareness and consideration of the brand, a lot of it is hard. It's just on trust. And when we talk about these vanity metrics, I mean, I love them and they do make us feel better, but they are just that. At the end of the day, like what I look at is, so I look at a TikTok that someone created about Pizza Hut, about an incredible experience that they had with Pizza Hut that has 5.5 million views. And I look at the social media value of what that would be if I had to pay for it. So that's kind of like one of the ways that we deem success. And then kind of what I just told you, if like I took a screenshot of this chat, that is my ROI from the activation that I did last week. Like how many people said, oh my God, I saw that. I love how they melt the cheese. Yeah, so all over social. So to see that, like to hear about it from randos and Instagram and get texts from friends, some of it is just having the confidence to make a bold choice to say, I'm choosing influencers who, and I have a great story for them to tell. And I'm going to make a bold choice to say, I know that that's the right thing to do to grow my brand. And you're not over investing in it in a place where for a small brand, it's putting you like at a disadvantage for driving conversion through other channels. So that's kind of, I know that's probably like a very lofty answer, but that's how I look at it.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. Folks, I'd love to move on to section 2, which is all about influencer activation strategies, specifically those that are driving ROI for your teams, so that we can share for our audience how they can replicate that success within their own programs. Just bring it back to the influencer marketing trends report. We noticed a couple of interesting data points here. For both brands and agencies, we noticed that the most common influencer activation was certainly paid campaigns within their influencer mix. Interestingly, though, we saw that brand respondents, they actually considered sending products or product seeding to creators as the most effective marketing activation, whereas agencies considered paid activation the most effective. So my question for our panel is, I'd love for you to walk us through a successful activation that you've run in the last 12 to 18 months, drawing on campaign examples. Let's begin with Brian.
It's such a lot in that question in terms of paid versus organic. I mean, we're one of the kind of the stakes that we put in the ground at RQ is we call it collaboration before transaction. We really look at the product or the brand. We do a lot of work for HBO and Hulu and a lot of other brands. And really, one of the reasons we started RQ is when you start something with a transaction, you get what you pay for exactly. But in terms of if you have a real relationship, in terms of some people don't, on paper, they look amazing. This person's got 75 million followers and this person has this level of engagement and their content's great. But then when you get on the phone with them, it's just like, this person just doesn't get it. So what we like to do, and 90% of our clients, really the approach is always, who is this person? Let's get a gut check. Let's talk to them. What kind of pizza do they like? What kind of entertainment do they like? And then we really kind of let the seeding for us is more of an organic. How do they react? Do they post? Do they not post? Do they call us with ideas? Do they get excited? Do they have other opportunities? And I think it's really important when we talk about the future of influencer marketing, having that approach is actually really powerful. I think the other approach that is transaction first will always have a media role, which is important for certain aspects, but that's not the approach we take. In terms of a specific example, some of the work we've done with HBO, we launched Machine Gun Kelly's documentary recently, which was a really tight ask in terms of we had a week to turn around, or maybe 2 weeks to turn around. And the first thing we really do from a strategic standpoint is we look at the content or we look at the product, whatever it is, and we figure out the cohorts that we think will have some type of connection with it. Whether, obviously for Machine Gun Kelly's documentary, we knew that his fans, his super fans, were going to already like it. We knew they were going to tune in. So we didn't really want to focus too much on that. We wanted to maybe make sure that they reward them for tuning in and sharing their excitement. But really it was, is there stuff about mental health? Is there stuff about music aficionados in general? There's stuff about people who like documentaries. So we really did a lot of research into those individual cohorts. And then our strategy is to understand how those people tick, what gets them excited. So in terms of seeding, one of the things we do a lot for entertainment, and our brilliant team on the entertainment team at RQ, they were one of the first people that did those boxes when COVID started. It's like we had to figure out how to do entertainment at home. We couldn't have a premiere party anymore. So how are we going to do it in people's home? And it's working with some of the most creative people in the world. Like we've built incredible boxes that you open up and you take through. And before we just did The Last of Us with HBO, and after watching it, we created a kit that was a survival kit that we gave to people that we knew had relevancy around either they were super fans or they were had an interest in, we partnered with Carhartt and had an interest in that kind of lifestyle. And it was super, super successful. So a lot of what we focus on is how are we going to trigger the right conversations with the right people without having to just be transactional. We do a lot of that with Pizza Hut, with the world's largest pizza. I think some of the greatest results came from those that we had existing relationships with the brand that we invited from a non-paid perspective. And I think 3 out of the top 4 performing creators in terms of content and engagement were those that we had the relationships with that were unpaid. So it's definitely a strategy that is working. And I think it's what the younger generations are wanting because it's more authentic. And I'll end with this, but I always approach it is how can the brand or the product that we're working with be a tool for those creators to do what they do better? A lot of times a brand can offer way more than a check, which, I mean, listen, we pay everyone for what they deserve to be paid. I'm not saying don't not pay anybody, but I do believe that if with the right creator who believes in this ethos of this long-term relationships, a brand can offer not only their social platforms, insights, technology, office space. I mean, there's so much more a brand can offer. And I think that approach gets so much more powerful content, and that's organic. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, absolutely. And as someone who just started watching The Last of Us, I think I may need one of these survival packs. Brilliant show. Katie, I'd love to get your thoughts on one of your successful campaign examples.
Yeah, so I have an interesting, I think, use case. So we've been working with Caviar, the delivery service app through DoorDash for like about 2 years now. And when we first started with them, the plan was like, okay, well, these are like our goals, these are our KPIs, like what can we do to like get out there, right? Because a lot of people didn't really know about Caviar and they didn't know it was the premium service of DoorDash. So we've created about 2 years later is we have two pieces of the puzzle. We have one that's more of like the product seeding piece where we are giving influencers the product. So like $200, $300 worth of a Caviar gift card, and they're producing content for us on a monthly basis. Could be a reel, could be a story, could be a static image. And then we're kind of just doing that. That has received an astronomical ROI when you think about it, because all the Caviar is paying for is like a few $1,000s worth of gift cards on a monthly basis. And there's been months where we've received, over 5-6 million impressions, 5 million in reach because of the relationships that Foodie Tribe has. So like what's unique to we're a network of influencers. So we
Katie, I think
at the drop of an email. And then in line with that, they do paid.
Sorry, Katie. So sorry. Would you mind repeating just the last maybe 30 seconds or so? I think you may have cut out.
Oh no. Okay, so I'll say it really quick. So with Caviar, we do 2 pieces. We have one piece where we're essentially giving out gift cards, and Caviar is receiving an astronomical ROI because they're only spending about $2,000 to $3,000 a month on gift cards and receiving upwards of 6 million impressions per month. And then our spiel is that only people that are part of Club Caviar, and that's like this exclusive group, will get access to paid campaigns. So if you're one of these 50 influencers part of this club, then we're going to reach out to you if we have a Levain Bakery activation in New York, but only if you're part of Club Caviar doing this like stuff kind of pro bono for $200 gift card will you get access to these, where then you could charge me $15,000 if that's what your content is worth.
Fantastic. Elyse, do any campaigns jump out at you?
Well, I'll just give everyone the rundown of the one we just did, because I think it's honestly, it's timely because it's probably my most successful influencer campaign that I've done in my career. So basically what I said before is it was creator led. It was a creator coming to Pizza Hut with a bold vision and wanting to do something exciting and needing a brand to partner with it. So Eric, who is like a Mr. Beast style YouTube creator, and he has a decent following on TikTok and Instagram as well. He reached out to Pizza Hut and said, hey, if I want to throw the world's largest pizza, and he did it publicly on Twitter, and he put us in his YouTube video, and he said, hey, Pizza Hut is the only thing that's stopping me. I'm going to throw the world's largest pizza party if I hit 10 million subscribers. And so he put it out there in the universe, and we said, like, we talked about it internally, and we said, this is an incredible opportunity and something that we feel like we want to. Sure, what a lot of you guys might not realize with Pizza Hut is that Pizza Hut is a legacy, it's a heritage brand. So a lot of times when I say, oh, I work at Pizza Hut, everyone's like, oh, cool, 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 I love pizza, it's awesome. I'm like, oh, awesome, when was the last time you ordered it? And they're like, like, oh, we like used to go there all the time for like little league parties and when I was younger, but it's always like, oh, in the past. So one of the things is my biggest goal in everything I do, from paid advertising, but more so like we're going to have more impact and influencer, is to make Pizza Hut cool again and make it a modern and considered brand today. So to be able to work with creators on something that big, that we knew was going to be an idea, that it was going to also draw other content creators to want to take part in it. So it was something that I determined was really worthwhile investment for the team. And we went all in on it, of creating a really impactful experience and like having great partners around us. Like our agency, RQ, is also the agency of record for some of YouTube's business. So Brian brought us and the YouTube team together so we could also work with Eric and YouTube together. And we created a really impactful experience, a pizza party. Young Gravy played the pizza party at YouTube Theater. And we went for the record of world's largest pizza party. We did not make that one. And then we built the world's largest pizza. But both of those experiences were so content rich and they were brand centric. Like there was no way. I always think that the best ideas are when you can't divorce the brand from the idea. So like that is for us, like where we've seen the most success in any creator work we've done, is if they're just saying like, oh, cool, it's Super Bowl, like try Pizza Hut. Like it's not as exciting, but if we're giving them a challenge about no one out pizzas the Hut, like there's no way that you can divorce Pizza Hut from that idea. So that's why we felt that this was so successful. Content rich experience that drew the main creator and other creators to want to post about something that was bold, exciting, and awesome. And it was, I mean, we got then a ton of PR because we were doing something fun and young and exciting with a creator. So I think we were to date around 6 billion PR impressions, and then 100 million. And like Eric hasn't released his final YouTube video, which will tack on another probably 20 million, and then we'll get more coverage, but we're at about 100 million impressions. And my team is probably going to kill me if any of them are on. They're like, Elyse, that's not right. It's whatever. It's probably north of 100 million now, but we had so many impactful creators building awesome content. So like that, I think was our most successful activation. Then we're going to take all of that content that Eric's done, cut it down. We're going to whitelist his TikTok, his YouTube short, and then be able to take the YouTube that he did, like the YouTube master video, and then cut that into a 15 and a 30 that will run in our paid as well. So hugely successful for us.
Wow.
Probably most successful for Pizza Hut and definitely the most successful in my marketing career.
Fantastic. Elyse, you touched on something there with, did you say Arik?
Well, his handle is Airack, AIRRACK, but his actual like real name is Eric.
Got it. Okay. So you mentioned something there about sort of bringing the challenge to him and saying, well, I suppose he brought the challenge to the market and said, if you give me X amount of followers, then I'll do this. And I think that's a really unique and mutually beneficial strategy for engaging creators. And obviously, if they can deliver the goods, then being able to build a long-term partnership. So with that in mind, I'd love to move on to the next section, which is all about creator relationships. So within the trends report, one thing that we notice a lot is the sort of compounding value that comes from working with creators in the long term, especially if you can get them, you know, posting about your brand organically, you know, building UGC. And I think there's an art to finding creators that do have affinity for your brand and then being able to capitalize on those relationships in the long term. So my question for each of you is this: what strategies do you have for developing long-term relationships with creators? I'd love to begin with Katy on this one, if that's all right.
So Brian has said some beautiful things about his agency and how he works with people. And I think we take a very similar approach. My background is in PR, so I am a people is what I tell. I love talking, I love being with people and networking, and that's how I've treated Foodie Tribe. The 3,000 people that I have in the network, I don't know them personally, but I've accepted them into the network, so I feel like they are my children. And I think that that's one of the reasons why a lot of our long-term partnerships are successful. So when I pitch, as an example, Florida Milk, that's an ambassador program. It's a 6-month program that we run 4 campaigns with the same set of influencers every single campaign. And they produce content. We whitelist their content. We pull UGC. We get content for the Florida Milk's blog. So they get a lot of stuff per campaign. And a really fun, like, short anecdote that was shared at a conference that we put together last September was one of our influencers, Juan. His handle is Juan Bite at a Time. He started with us at Florida Milk. He was 25,000 followers, and he's over, I think he's like probably over 105,000 now. He's still with us. He's sticking with us because he's become a good friend of mine and he can't overcharge me anymore. But he's been deemed the milkman. So like he goes out like walking around Miami and people stop him like, oh my God, are you the milkman? And it's because he's been working with Florida Milk and creating content about milk for almost 2 years. So I think that was really cool. And it was cool for the client to see that. And then one of his last videos went viral on Instagram specifically, not on TikTok. So that was a really cool use case for us.
Fantastic. Brian, what are your thoughts here?
Listen, relationships is in our DNA. Relationship quotient is the name of our agency. I think there is nothing more valuable than these relationships. I think what's happening now is that creator content is infiltrating way more than just social media. Creator content is taking over most of the comms from a brand perspective. I believe that we say in real life, you are who your friends are. I think it's the exact same thing from a brand perspective. It's not about brands telling people how great they are. It's about other people telling each other how great the brand is. And that really only happens when you have that real relationship with people. And I think one of the great things that Pizza Hut did with Eric is that it was mutually beneficial. It was like, what can we do for you? How can we be a part of your growth? How can we be the tool for you to get more followers, to get more awareness, to get more relevancy? And then the partnerships, the future is I think what we could do with Eric in the future, what we could do with Young Gravy in the future. They will always be part of the family and bring us ideas that us sitting in corporate America sometimes don't have access to or visibility to. So I think the value alone is incredible. From a strategic standpoint, we built an entire system out, and the incredible team at RQ activates. It's just like dating somebody. If you think about your relationship, you have to be consistent in communicating with them. You have to be relevant in communicating them, and it has to be a two-way conversation. So there's a lot of those moments that happen, and what's most important is the in-between moments. It's how do we take advantage of things that are happening in their life. So we do a lot of listening. They're up for an award, they're up for a streamy, they have a new collaboration. Then it's also being kind of their friend, like things that we hear. Oh, Pizza Hut's coming out with this, or HBO is having come to this premiere. And we're very lucky to have very dynamic, incredible clients that know that value. So we'll bring, I don't know, some people to a YouTube concert, but at the same time, we know that their relationship with Pizza Hut. So it's about knowing that person, being relevant to them in terms of the opportunities or the access you can give them. And like you said, the amount of organic that comes out of that is not only powerful and it has an amazing impact, but it helps us when we do want to do something, because I do believe in paying people. When we do want to do something, we launch a new product or a new show, they are so excited about it. And it doesn't come down to the 5 posts for this amount of money. It comes down to, I'm just so excited to be there. Yes, pay me for my time, and this is my rate, great. But we get so much more. So I think we spend a lot of time, and the people in my office, in that we call it the nurturing, the dating kind of mentality. And I think that's what gives us such great value, is that's a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, and so many of the big corporate companies don't have those teams. So we are able to be a partner with our clients in that way.
Yeah,
Totally.
I mean, I think Brian's done an amazing job at like getting us to think differently about how we engage with creators, because I think like giving the amount of creators in the past 3 years that have said to me, like, we get on a call with them, like I get on the call instead of the agency, and they say, oh my God, I'm like, this is crazy. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm starstruck. And I'm like, dude, like, you have millions of people watching you all the time. Like, we were on a call with Angry Reactions, Wanye, who did a TikTok campaign for us last year, and he was nervous. And I said, like, oh my God, I'm actually nervous talking to you. So it's just so funny that these creators don't get access to clients. So I think for anyone who's working for an agency, like, really press your clients to spend the actual time with the creators. I think if you can invest in like having creators come to the office, that's really important to have like these firsthand experiences, because things that I might think are like dorky and corporate are exciting to creators in a different way. Like, I'm probably like eye roll over them, but I think that that's been a big unlock for us, is just like putting the client team directly with creators to have like really awesome conversations. I think it's funny because like you're going to get like, I get a lot of requests from my leadership team about like, oh my God, like we want some cool, like viral content. We want to like make Pizza Hut, like be in everyone's feeds. Like, that's what I get asked all the time from my leadership team. And I think that, like the most important thing that like I say to them is just like, we have to take time and make really authentic relationships. And the best shot at having content that is like viral and awesome is to have real relationships with creators, and not just say like, and I agree with Brian, like it's important, like everyone should get paid for what they bring to the table. But if you're paying someone that you have an authentic relationship with, the content is going to be 10x better.
And to say one last thing also, what's really, really important in terms of the identification and the nurturing phase of relationships with creators is the inclusivity part. It is every single thing we do for every client is making sure that we have a network, a tribe that includes everyone. And that's just not the color of your skin. It's not your political views. It's not your sexual orientation. There are so many incredible humans that have their own uniqueness. And like I said earlier, you are who your friends are in real life. It is really important nowadays to look at that diversity and inclusivity kind of in your influencer marketing and how that comes to fruition and everyone you're nurturing. Because when you never know who you're going to need, when you're going to need, and that is, I think, really important to Gen Z. So we take that very seriously, but just calling it out because I think it's important to know.
Brian, you make an excellent point. And actually, I'd love for the group to extrapolate on that a little bit, because sort of consistent question that we get at CIQ is, what kind of strategies are working when it comes to beginning outreach to new potential creators, specifically those, within the Gen Z cohort, as you mentioned, Elyse, that's sort of the target on everyone's mind at the moment. So, what strategies are working? What are some potential stumbling blocks? And, how do you cultivate that inclusivity that you just mentioned, Brian? I'm going to open this one to the floor. Whoever would like to jump in.
Well, I think the most important thing to Gen Z is that, and I think most consumers nowadays, is their cohorts. I mean, we really take on this, and cohorts can literally be an LGBTQ sneakerhead who lives in the South. I mean, they're very small ecosystems or communities of people. And the hard thing is to be relevant to everyone. You kind of have to be relevant to these individuals. Marketing, in our perspective, has really kind of flipped from a top down to a bottom up, meaning top down, it used to be about the big commercials and the big ads and the big experiences and the parties, which is still valuable, I think, at certain stages of the funnel and where you are as a brand. But most of the established clients, I think, like Pizza Hut, we mentioned, is a heritage brand. It's about bottoms up. We have to be relevant to these cohorts and these individuals, communities, and that's really important to Gen Z. So we have the insights. I mean, an insight-driven idea is the best idea, I think. Looking at those individual nuggets of information. Being able to test it, talk to people. We have our team of people in Los Angeles are on top of it. Like, blows my mind how connected they are just with individuals. And so that's why I talked before about inclusivity. You have to talk to the individual groups of people and making sure that they approve it or they connect with it. So it is really about just getting on the ground and talking to people and understanding what is their passion, what drives them, what motivates them is usually gets the greatest content and the most impactful content.
Fantastic. Katy, what are your thoughts?
So again, for us, it's a little bit different because a lot of what we do is sourced from like our own group. So we have Gen Z, millennials, we have like the whole spectrum of people, diversity, everywhere from like an 18-year-old that's like gone viral on TikTok to a 65-year-old that's making recipes with her daughter in the kitchen. So for us, like, you know, like Brian mentioned, it's all about that relationship building and like understanding what's important to them and what's important to their audience. But if there's ever a time where it's happened where a client comes to us with something very specific, so if it's a particular type of Gen Zer that only likes honey maple turkey or whatever, because Boris Hut's one of our clients, then we actually, you know, we use CreatorIQ a lot for the discovery piece, right? So we do have our own roster of influencers that live in CreatorIQ, but then we use CreatorIQ for that discovery to really like hone in on a particular audience.
Excellent. Elyse, any thoughts to share here?
No, I think Brian did a really nice job encapsulating on like what is the most important thing for us in acquiring these Gen Z creators, which is like understand what's meaningful to them versus just go out to say like, oh, hey, do you want to do a paid engagement for Pizza Hut or TJ Maxx or whatever? But like at TJ Maxx, I found a lot of success in going out to creators to say, my gosh, I see like you do this amazing work in like finding value in beauty. Here's some exciting stuff that we have going on. So I think tapping in, and I love what Brian said about bottoms up. I think that is the best way to go. Now, do you have to put in more time and calories to do that? Sure. It's not a blanket approach to just say, oh my gosh, let's sort by age of creator and their impact and like their engagement rate. And like, oh, let's look at these Gen Z creators. These are the best creators. So then we should definitely choose them. So I think it's more about like finding the places and spaces that are more important for your brand too. Like for Pizza Hut, like, you know, no one out pizzas the Hut. Like comedy is important for us. Music is important for us. Gaming is important, but those are important for a lot of different people. So like figuring out like, are there, you know, we are releasing this product and it's, you know, something more closely to dramatic. So can we reach out to Drama Talk creators because we have a really like cool insight that matches with the content that they're making. So I 100% agree that it's more time and calories into a bottoms up planning approach.
Fantastic. Folks, thank you so much for an excellent discussion. I would love to jump into some audience Q&A in the final minutes that we have. Let's start with this question about, okay, so this is all about the trends that we should expect in 2023. So how will creator-led marketing continue to evolve in 2023? And specifically, what other influencer marketing trends should we be on the lookout for this year? And with audience Q&A, I'm going to open it to the whole panel. So whomever would like to jump in, you're welcome to.
I'll just repeat what I said. I think that creator marketing, that's what we're calling it, influence, will be more impactful across the marketing mix and not just social media. I think that creator content is going to infiltrate its way all the way to TV, all the way through PR to social to experiential. And that's what I'm so excited for because I've been doing this for way too long and not too long. I mean, I'm so excited that this is becoming not just its own pillar, it's becoming something that's really infiltrating all of it, which is super exciting.
Absolutely.
I think this year, especially, I mean, if you would have asked me last year, or if a brand would ask like my partner and I if they should be on TikTok, we said, unless you're a 13-year-old girl, like putting together a dance, probably not. And like a year later, it's changed drastically, right? And like companies like Pizza Hut are investing in TikTok influencers. I think TikTok is only going to continue to change the landscape for us this year. And another big thing that's changed for us, and I think it's going to continue to move the needle for a lot of brands, is video content, which I think we've mentioned previously. Unfortunately, Sadacon is not doing it anymore on Instagram, right? So brands are having to invest more money because creating video content, real content, is costing more. So I think that's going to be something that we continue to see. And then I think the third thing, and something that we're working on a lot with a lot of our brands, is really convincing them that whitelisting is something that they should invest in. Even if it's it can be in collaboration with an organic campaign, and then they can just whitelist the content for 30 days, within that time frame. But we're going to be working on that with a lot of our brands this year.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would say two quick things. One, I think you're going to see a lot of more collaborations instead of collaborations with celebrities. I think you'll see more collaborations with creators. So I think we just saw a big one from Chipotle with a creator that reached out to them about a steak, and then it turned into something that's going to be a menu item. I think we'll see more of that. The other thing, unfortunately, that I think we're all going to have to watch out for is that as this space, especially in TikTok, grows so quickly, there's going to be more guardrails around like FTC requirements, music, how we approach all of that. So I think that's something that we've been dealing with. It's very difficult. It's like, Pizza Hut's a big brand. We want to make sure that our creators aren't put in an uncomfortable place from a legal perspective. So like, we're really careful about the music we use and, the marks that are in their videos. So I think that's only going to continue to be a hindrance, unfortunately. Sorry to be Debbie Downer.
No, it's very good information to have. Elyse, I have a question in the chat that I think may be directed at you, so I'd like to get your thoughts. What percentage of the budget is base versus idea generation?
Ooh.
Or maybe, if not a specific number,
probably I think it's probably 60-40 base. Brian, that probably feels about right, 60-40. And then we're re-looking at that H1, H2. So I'm really diligent with the team to say, okay, it's July, we have a good amount of base, and we haven't had any ideas pop up, or we used a lot of this open to spend in the first half. Do we feel good about what we have? Should we skinny up on some of the ongoing block and tackle stuff that we're doing to open up more for some ideas? So it's probably 60-40 ongoing to idea. Okay.
So I've got someone here. It's not so much a question, it's more of a call for help, because they're and I quote, pushing for my company to start whitelisting, and there's so much pushback when we know that the ROI is there. So what advice would you give that person to communicating the value of that internally?
I guess that's coming. Brian said it.
It's mystifying to me that people are against whitelisting. From a client perspective, I'm constantly pushing my team to say, you have to look at the content strategy. We can say, try this pizza from a Pizza Hut standpoint. We can do that all day long, and we do plenty of that. Have someone else tell the same message for us, and we have to realize that getting Arthur to get the big New Yorker pizza, he might be motivated by a brand-led message, but Brian might be motivated only by creator-led messages. So I think it's so mystifying to me that people are still nervous about this.
Show them the data. I mean, there's data out there. I mean, I would literally just show them the data. I mean,
yeah.
Or set a budget to say we're going to test with 10% of our budget or 5%, whatever people feel. Look at it as your own personal investment. You have to have some risk, some of your portfolio in risk, and some of your portfolio in what you feel comfortable with. And I mean, I think testing the whitelisting, it'll perform, especially it will perform, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Okay. Also, feel free to just share this webinar with them, which you will receive after the call. Okay, folks, I think we have time for just one last very quick question. So I'm going to go with, How do you feel about long-term partnerships, 6 to 12 months, with creators versus one-off paid activations?
I love them. I mean, that's like what we do a lot of one-off campaigns. When I say one-off, maybe it's like a quarterly campaign with the same, client. It's not like an always on approach. Maybe it's more like those lead generated ideas were a little bit more out of the box. We have a little bit more budget. But for the brands that can do a little bit of both, like Pizza Hut, I think that 60-40 is like a beautiful formula to have that evergreen, always on content with those long-term partnerships, and then bringing in those like high profile influencers that are really going to move the needle on different KPIs and stuff, so that you can show, like Brian said, like show them, like when people say show me the money, show them the numbers, like show them the data. The numbers are definitely there.
Excellent. Elyse, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement. You have to have a great mix of long-term partners, because when you have a long-term partner, they feel invested in your brand's growth and your goals as well. And a lot of the time that the content that you're paying for, it will be more connected to your brand. And because they understand, the RTBs, they understand what you want to talk about. And then likely, you'll see a regular piece of content from them, and they have a Pizza Hut pizza in it, or they're wearing a No One Out Pizzas the Hut t-shirt that Brian's team sent them. So I do think that building that relationship, but it's not only just about oh, okay, we're going to have a 6-month partnership with this creator and we're going to have them post 4 times. It's about putting in the time if you have it.
Absolutely.
And I'll just say, as a closing thing for me at least, I think the most exciting thing about influence is the evolution that we've seen. And I think moving from before the internet, there was influencer and there was word of mouth. But the internet came around and it was super exciting because there were some metrics. And then it's really become true media, like buying billboards. And now it's kind of coming back, the pendulum has swung back to this real relationship and this authentic kind of nature of collaboration. Which is so exciting because there's so much opportunity to have larger teams. I mean, I have probably the best team, I think, in the industry. Elyse has Lauren and the most incredible team on her. And I think what those teams are able to do with our help and our collaboration, and given, I don't know, just the rubber band to try things out, it's so exciting. It's a really exciting time to be in this industry, I think.
Absolutely. Folks, I just want to say a massive thank you to our entire panel, Brian, Katy, Elyse. This has been an absolute pleasure. Elyse, I know exactly what I'll be ordering for dinner this evening. And I encourage our audience to all do the same. Folks, thank you for joining us. Please join us at the next webinar. Keep an eye on CreatorIQ.com in our resources page to see what webinars we have upcoming. And as a final treat, I'd like to just send you to the page where you can download the 2023 Influence Marketing Trends Report that is now in the chat, and you'll receive that by email also. Have a wonderful day, great 2023, and yes, we'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, CreatorIQ team.
Thank you.